Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Gridiron Gurus. My name is Luke, and joining with me, as always, is
Ryan Green.
Today we're doing our first off-season thing. Super Bowl ended 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be going through free agency predictions, or not predictions, I guess needs and like what teams could get.
Yeah,
the kind of players, because it's really hard to predict free agents.
Yeah.
But we're going to go through team needs, their cap space, and like free agent or two for each of the three needs that we'll list off. Their top three going into free agency. Obviously, will change for the draft and whatever. But we're doing AFC and NFC Souths. Mm-hmm. That's our teams: Texans, Panthers. So we're gonna go in reverse. You said we're gonna go in winner down, right?
Yeah. So
we'll go best to worst. And we'll start out with your division. So the team that won it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes, they did.
What are the we'll start out. We'll just I gotta fix this mic. We're gonna go through kind of. Do you have their key free agents?
I have it set up as far as I have it set as far as their needs and what they can do. But I also have a list of their key free agents as well. One of the things too to notice is that the cap is going to go up. The cap already has gone up as far as like the projections have gone up from what they were. So what I tend to use over the cap and from yesterday.
Over the cap's probably the easiest one for us to use as non-NFL insider people.
Exactly. Yeah. But it went up $7 million just from yesterday to today. So some of the numbers I had to fix a little bit, but
I will say about the cap, it's going to go up a lot. It's their TV rights deal ends in 2029 or 2028, one of those 2 years. Mm-hmm. I saw a thing today, and I saw like Brett Coleman tweet about it. So they're changing how they gauge viewership. Like they're all these companies and stuff are like taking into account a lot of different other stuff that's going to make it the viewership skyrocket. For the NFL, it's going to be so much higher than what it actually was. So the TV money is actually going to be like there's a very realistic chance that the cap can jump for like 50 million in like 1 year, which is wild. Like there's a chance this year we see, because by the time the TV rights deal ends, it's like 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So you could see a lot of really backloaded deals if teams are predicting, okay, the viewership is going to, it's going to keep going up as the NFL. Teams like could backload some of these deals because they're like, well, the cap is going to increase an absorbent amount in like 2028 when these guys are hitting on down the road. When these guys are hitting the third, fourth year of their deals, then it doesn't really matter because one, the contract will have already skyrocketed above. I mean, we see every year a player will like Nico Collins signed an extension last year. People are like, oh, it's overpaid. Now he's underpaid.
Yes.
So it's like now it's like wide receiver contracts are already it changes so much, but we could see a lot of deals. I'm saying like we're not predicting that in our like what the deal is going to be and all these stuff, but we could see a lot of free agents go to places we didn't think, wow, how are they making that work? And if you like look at a breakdown of the contract, it's like, oh, they're like not getting a lot up front, and it's just a lot on the back end.
Or even like teams that are good be able to retain their good talent. Because
the Chiefs are going to newsflash: the Chiefs, they'll lose Trey Smith. Mm-hmm. But I'd be shocked if the Chiefs lost many of their other players because they're going to restructure Mahomes' deal and they can free up $30 million like that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sorry, I interrupted your Bucks thing. I just wanted to get that out there first.
It's a good thing we talked about it now.
It's a good caveat
because it's one of the things where like I'm operating as of don't know yet exactly how much money they'll have, but understanding of where you are right now, and you can make some moves, but depending on the team and what they usually do, is I'm also operating. So going off the Bucks, you're coming into the last year of the huge dead cap that you have from the Tom Brady years. So like last year, it was like an exorbitant amount of dead cap. This year, you still have 30 million dead cap. So there's some stuff that you're gonna do that you're not going to immediately, restructure a whole lot of deals. But as of right now, you have $8.399 million in cap space. You have some key free agents that are leaving that I don't think you'll re-sign. One of them is Chris Godwin. You already have his replacement, and I don't think it's like too big of a thing to say like, hey, Chris Godwin, You did amazing, but we're going to focus on building for the future when he's like 28,
29 coming off an ACL. Too.
Exactly. So like that's understandable. You're also losing some offensive line depth. One of the things I was looking at is Ben Bredesen. He can be replaced, so it's not that big. Your edges, you're losing 3 edges: Shaq Barrett, Anthony Nelson, Joe Tryon, who is a bust. Losing Greg Gaines, Will Golston. Your linebackers, you're losing both starting linebackers, and also like you're losing your safety, like some of your safeties. So like there are some moves that you need to be making.
Lavonte David is either going to come back or retire. He's not going. That's why
I put him in there as far as like he is going to be resigned, because what you can do. Here's what you can.
Also,
do.
Jalen Walker, welcome to Tampa back on years, by the way.
Yeah. What I did say is that you can restructure Baker Mayfield's contract, because what it is right now, you can restructure it to make it be like, $50 million gets a cap next year, which is not too bad for Baker if he continues to play continue to play the way he's been playing, and now get your cap space up to about 29, 958 million. So you have a lot more room to work with. And the ones that I wanted to specify is doing 1-year deals or doing stuff that's going to like transition to hopefully being able to boom. So like obviously I said re-signing Lavonte David. I said letting Chris Godwin go. And then I also had you sign Patrick McCarry from the Ravens. I think having him on at guard, because you're losing both guards, will help benefit your offensive line, because you already got your tackles, you got them down, you got your center for the future as well. If you can start building up the offensive line even more, like get a veteran guard, you could even spend a little more if you want to besides McCarry, or get like getting a rookie to put beside Tristan Wirfs. You could build this offensive line that could be formidable for years and years and years to come, because it's a very
it already is kind of built up.
Exactly. It's really more about the guard position that I'm kind of concerned about.
They drafted what's his face, the guy who's
Cody Mock.
Yeah. But for the Bucks, not a lot to work with, but also they've drafted pretty solidly. You've got quarterback, you got Mike Evans. I would think they might start to look maybe getting some younger playmakers a little bit. But if you're going to lean on that offensive line, you've got 2 really good. Obviously, Tristan Wirfs is arguably the best tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
I know Graham Barton had some rookie struggles. I think he's going to be fantastic. Right tackle's good. Goedeke. Whatever, Luke Goedeke. If Mock can develop, I mean, they do a good job of developing, or they have recently. If they can get that offensive line, if they can find 2 guards, it's going to be really good, and they can lean on Rashad White, Bucky Irving, and then Jalen McMillan can take some strides. But
you still have Mike Evans. I still have what's his face? The third wide receiver. I'm trying to think. I can't think of his name right now.
And then Cade Otton is a solid enough tight end. Mm-hmm. Like they have solid weapons. I think they need to get younger at like wide receiver. Obviously, they drafted Jalen McMillan, but I'm saying like Mike Evans is getting older. Obviously, we anticipate them losing Chris Godwin. For me, really, the worries for them are on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Losing all your edges. Lavonte David is not getting any younger. Like the front 7. I love your defensive tackle pairings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome, but
you have like Yaya Diaby and Chris Braswell, like your only.
Braswell could develop.
Maybe.
I think he's more a rotational guy.
Yeah.
Yaya Diaby was solid last year. Really looking at you can sign. I mean, the guys you said you had Derek Barnett.
I did. Barnett was the one that I was thinking of. Just as
I
far
haven't
as
mentioned somewhere in here.
I was thinking Derek Barnett would be a good rotational. Have him as Chris Braswell as your rotational. Then with your first pick, getting
Jalen Walker probably.
Getting like a Jalen Walker or something like that. That's going to be another benefit to your edge, because like I say, you just need to have a good edge rotation with the defense cycle that you have. I think you're good there. You sign with Lavonte David, who's still good. Hopefully you can I think this linebacker draft class, more and more I'm looking at it, there are some good linebackers you can get later on, especially pairing with Lavonte David. I think that's that'll be the best scenario for you. And then your secondary is still problematic, especially because you don't have the most depth at the cornerback. But I think you got Winfield, You got Jamel Dean. You got some pieces. You just got to really build that up. So like I'm looking forward to really talking about them in the draft because I think that's when like if you have a really good draft, that is going to help you out so much because you have like I can't remember how much you have next year's draft next year's cap space, but it's going to be a whole lot.
Yeah. I guess we can move on to the Texans now.
Yeah.
So the Texans, they're key free agents. I kind of ordered it a little different than you, but I have Stephon Diggs, obviously coming off the ACL tear. Derek Barnett, we already mentioned him. Eric Murray, Mario Edwards, and Dare Agumbawale.
Mm-hmm.
Diggs is kind of the big one. The other guys are kind of rotational guys. Derek Barnett's the third defensive end. We'll re-sign Stephon Diggs. I'd be pretty shocked if we didn't, mainly because of his contract. It's kind of weird. We actually it's better to sign him. We actually save money by signing him, basically.
Yeah.
Derek Barnett, I think he'll be back, honestly. But if he's not, he's going to be a really good rotational guy for a bunch of other teams. But Eric Murray, he'll probably re-sign. Mario Edwards will re-sign. He had a career year. He was really good for us, and I think would be a priority. And Dare Agumbawale, good, solid third down back. Houston fans like him because he was the sub-end kicker.
Mm-hmm.
So all the key free agents. Derek Barnett's probably the one that we have the biggest chance of losing. But cap space, we have $5 million. Not a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that's gonna get we're gonna get freed up by Shaq Mason's gonna get cut. That'll save $13 million. They'll restructure some of these contracts. I think they're probably gonna re-sign or extend Daniil Hunter, and they'll move Hunter. They'll probably add a year or two to his deal, which will save some money, I'm sure. And they'll cut some other players. Mainly, I think Jimmy Ward probably gets cut. That saves $10 million. But I think the Texans they have a lot of mobility in their range. So I've done over the cap for them a lot. Also, I've just seen a lot of the Twitter stuff. It's we only have $5 million, but we have a lot of more mobility than actually is their needs. Not really surprising. It's interior offensive line mainly. Then I put safety and I put wide receiver. Wide receiver, interior offensive line, and safety are kind of the big ones. I think that the top two for them in free agency will be interior offensive line and wide receiver. I don't really love the safety class. I mean, they could get what's his name from San Francisco.
Hufanga.
Yeah, Hufanga. I mean, he has the D'Amico Ryans connection. He was an All-Pro under D'Amico Ryans. But he's been very hurt, so we'll see. And he would be a scheme fit. But the guys I put that we could acquire, James Daniels could play. I think we'll have the cap to get him. Trey Smith is kind of a pipe dream. I don't think we'd get him, but I put him on there. But James Daniels, Tevin Jenkins for interior offensive line. I put Javon Holland and Andre Sisco at safety. Probably more Andre Sisco would be in the price range.
Holland is going to be asking for probably closer to 14, 15, maybe 16.
But then wide receiver, so wide receiver is kind of weird for us because we're not looking for we're looking for more depth than anything. Darius Slayton is a guy.
I had him too, as going to you. Yeah.
Darius Slayton is definitely a guy that I would really like. And I know he's coming off an ACL tear, but based on how, oh my gosh, he was Nick Haley, how he likes to have his wide receivers, especially in the Rams, Christian Watson, because he blocks his butt off and they love blocking wide receivers. Now I do think we might trade for Cooper Kupp. There's been links there, but I think if you re-sign Diggs, you're more looking for a wide receiver 3, and that's kind of where you get the Darius Slayton,
somebody also
Christian Watson. Even if you sign Christian Watson, then you can just sign a draft wide receiver in round 2 or something like that. But you kind of have that really good blocking wide receiver in Christian Watson, which he is an awesome blocker. He puts a lot of effort in on that side, and that matters, especially is going to matter in this scheme now that we have. But that's kind of what I put for the Texans. Their main goal is got to be fix up the offensive line.
Yes.
And they're gonna also draft guys. I don't love how Nick Caserio is. He hasn't hit very well on offensive linemen, but I would say if he can get like a very good vet, guard in free agency, maybe I don't know what they're going to do with Titus Howard if he's going to stay at tackle, move into guard because he's actually pretty good at guard down the stretch. Like I'll look at what they're going to do in center. It's very weird for me. I'm not even sure what the Texans are going to do. I mean, they're definitely going to address guard in free agency, but it's not going to be a big. We're going to go out and get a huge free agent like we did last year, where we signed like we got Diggs, we got Daniel Hunter, Joe Mixon, like we got a bunch of different guys. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but what do you think?
I like it. Like I said, I really like the Darius Slayton, mainly because you need somebody that's going to be able to take the top off because who knows how long it's going to be for Tank Dell to even come back, or even if he's like like it's going to be all the way next year. So you get somebody, you get a deep threat. You have Nico, you have Stephon Diggs. I think that's a really good trio. And you could sign up to a 2-year deal, so like you could ease Tank Dell back even if you have to for next year. Yeah. And then I was also thinking about getting probably some veteran presence in the secondary. So like I know it's a little bit older, but you could probably get Jordan Poyer for not too much either.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think
he retired.
I thought he still played.
I thought he retired.
I thought he was on. I don't know.
He's on the Dolphins.
Yeah, he was on the Dolphins. Yeah, but I was mainly thinking about the fact that
I guess he didn't.
Yeah.
Micah Hyde, I guess, was
maybe, but I was just thinking about the fact that you need some veteran leadership in that secondary. Micah Hyde retired. But overall, I think yours is more of keeping the talent you have, trying to make more cap space, and like you said, just focusing on your offensive line. Because like I would be surprised if you drafted a wide receiver in the first round. I know that you want Golden, but like I really do think that is be beneficial if in this amazing offensive line class take one in the first round, whoever is able to fall to you. But moving on to the Falcons, they're in a precarious situation, mainly because of the fact that they're the whole Kirk Cousins situation with the cap. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think there's anybody going to take on that contract. They can honestly just keep him, but that would just make it way awkward for him and Michael Penix. So I would assume that might be a post June 1 cut. But regardless, right now they have about -$5 million. They're $5 million. They're $5 million under the cap, and they have a lot of needs, especially on defense. But there are some ways they can kind of make some more cap space. They can restructure Jesse Bates, restructure Lindstrom, and restructure Matthews. Bates and Lindstrom are two key pieces that you're going to have for a long run. So it's okay for you to restructure.
Cutting Kirk this year does nothing for you this year, but it saves you $40 million next year.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
and you could trade him, and that saves you 27. But who's taking on that?
I don't think anybody's going to take.
You'd have to attach really significant. Yeah, you can't cut him free.
No.
So like, you'd have to attach significant draft capital to get rid of his contract.
So it's an interesting situation that you have there with the Falcons, but being able to restructure Bates and Lindstrom and Matthews, that's going to give you it'll take you up to $18.5 million. If you cut David Onyemata, who like Ruka can take that position because David Onyemata is like 32, I believe. Yeah, 33. Like that, bumps it up about another $8 million. You can restructure AJ Terrell. That's 10 more. That's $10 more million you can use. So like you're up to about 36 mil. You're able to re-sign Drew Dahlman, who was a really good center for them last year. So
really good.
And then also like I'm looking at people who are going to fit the system for Ulbrich and like Morris, like they're kind of people. So I'm looking at signing DJ Reed. If he liked working under Ulbrich, that's the whole entire thing. But you need a quarterback too. Someone that could fit well with AJ Terrell. I think AJ Terrell's still really good, an amazing corner. But being able to solidify your cornerbacks, you already got Jesse Bates in the backfield. You can get a safety in the draft, and I like the safety class, especially in the second or third round. And then I said Mike Hoyt from the Rams, having as like an edge rusher, someone who can stop the run and then focus on getting a pass rusher in the first round. So like getting a pass rusher, working. Hopefully that Rukaroro takes the next step. But having
baffling pick to me.
I still don't understand it either. But I mean, he was a good pass rusher, so that's the only upside. But like getting somebody that's going to be able to work in the system of Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich. That's the reason why I was really thinking about like DJ Reed and Mike Hoyt and hoping that Hoyt can give you a little more pass rush, but like he is a really good run defender. He's going to solidify as far as like what that carryover was from Jimmy Lake. Like the only thing that really happened was that you had a good run defense. Outside of that, you had no kind of pass rush. So you're going to have to get that in the draft. And there's like I said, there's a lot of great pass rushers in this draft class. And the only problem is you don't have that many picks because you trade a third and a fifth.
The good thing for the Falcons, though, is you don't need much on offense.
Exactly.
Like you have a solid offensive line. You have obviously your weapons. Even if Pitts isn't living up to it, you still have good receivers because Darnell Mooney was really good last year.
Yes, he was.
And Drake London is a legit one. And then Bijan is Bijan. But like you don't need really anything on offense. So you can dump all these resources into the defense and like really outside of Drew Dalman, you're not really signing. You don't really have a lot of other free agents on the offense.
No.
Like you're not really losing anybody else on offense. So if you can just re-sign him, then you're like, okay, whatever money else we can get from restructures, cuts, whatever, that's all going in the defensive side.
Yeah.
And like if we can just be league average defense, and I think Michael Penix is going to be pretty good next year, you should have a pretty good offense.
Yes.
With all those weapons, with
Matthew Bergeron going his third year, he was good last year as well. Like
it's like you should. Bijan is Bijan.
Mm-hmm.
I really like
Tyler Algier is Tyler Algier.
So it's like I think you should have a very good offense if you can get your defense up to being league average, slightly above league average. I think it'll be good. And I believe in Raheem Morris. He's a great defensive mind. He just didn't have much to work with last year.
Exactly.
And Jimmy Lake was terrible.
Yes, he was.
Who would have thought? A guy who was fired from Washington for whatever. You got anything else on the?
No, but I basically just like focus on investing in the defense in the draft. Hoping that you can you can hit off some picks, and you have a bright future once you get past this Kirk Cousins situation.
Yeah, I think they'll be past the Kirk Cousins faster than most people anticipate. I got the Colts now. Their main free agents, they're losing Ryan Kelly, who's been their center for a decade now. I think he was drafted in 2015, 2014, 2015,
something like that.
Mo Alley Cox, who's kind of been their starting tight end. Joe Flacco. I know he's not their starting quarterback, but he got significant playing time for them last year. Julian Blackmon, their starting safety, and Mark Glasnow, their starting right guard, I believe. So they're losing two offensive line pieces on an offensive line that has steadily regressed. Now, Ryan Kelly is not as good as he was. They're not going to re-sign him. I think he'll leave. I think they'll re-sign Mo Cox. I'm not sure about Glasnow and Blackmon. I'm being totally honest with you. I think they'll re-sign Blackmon, but I don't know. They can't really afford to let him go because they have $35 million in cap space.
Yeah.
Their needs I put here were linebacker, defensive back, and defensive line.
You don't think interior offensive line?
I did, but I went and looked on a bunch of Colts message boards and read stuff that people were talking about. They're like, they have to fix their defensive lines. What all of them were saying. I don't know. I think they'll figure it. I know interior offensive line will be an issue, but I do think that I don't know. Maybe they do re-sign Ryan Kelly. I think they'll re-sign Glasnow because he's been okay for them at guard. But Quentin Nelson was good again last year. He had a down year 2 years ago, but they have $35 million in cap space. Obviously, the cap is kind of fake, so everyone always ends up getting more. But the main guys I looked at for them were at linebacker because their linebackers have not been good. Their linebackers were not good last year.
They were good. They were good 2 years ago.
Yeah, but they were not good last year. I put Dre Greenlaw and Zach Bond. I saw a lot of the Colts fans saying they needed a coverage linebacker. Zach Bond was really good in coverage last year. Dre Greenlaw has been a very good, consistent linebacker. pretty much just the guy in the NFL. Yeah, he had the Achilles tear in the Super Bowl, so he was kind of hampered last year, but he'll be a year removed from that. So I think he'll kind of be back to his normal self. And he's still only 27.
So he'll replace EJ Speed in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they really need a linebacker. So I put Dre Greenlaw and Zach Bond. No, he doesn't have the connection. Never mind. But then I put for safety or DB, I put Justin Reed and I put Tre'Davious White. I don't love the cornerback class for free agents. He's not very good, but Tre'Davious White is a guy. Maybe they they like to kind of take these shots on cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Like based on this, like they signed Stephon Gilmore like 2 years ago. They like to take shots on these guys who were really good and like have potential. And Tre'Davious White, even though he hasn't been good in a minute, he still has had some flashes. You could maybe sign DJ Reed as well.
But you don't want him to be your number one.
No, but like I think Justin Reed at safety if you don't re-sign just Julian Blackmon, and then on defense I put Josh Sweat. I know they re-signed or they drafted Latu last year. He was not good.
No,
he was not good at all, and they needed more juice on that defensive line. And Josh Sweat,
they didn't get it from Kwity Paye either.
Yeah, and they could throw money at Josh Sweat, and like if he wants to be that like primary pass rusher, like I think Kwity Paye is okay against the run, and so is Latu. Like Latu, I think at least will have the floor of being a solid run defender. He was not good as a pass rusher at all last year. No. So like maybe those two guys can kind of be more run stuffing guys, and you have Josh Sweat as that juice pass rusher because he was good last year and he was great in the Super Bowl. But that's kind of what I put for the Colts. They're always a weird team too because they never really sign anybody, and they never go after like a big name guy. But maybe Ballard's feeling some heat, and maybe he kind of changes up his MO since what it's been, but. They'll probably end up just kind of re-signing their guys and going into the draft. Maybe, they'll sign some like depth pieces, but I don't know. The Colts are a very weird team. They were kind of the weirdest one for me to pick for because I kind of know what the Titans and Jaguars do. But yeah, what do you think about the Colts?
You're correct. Like they're a weird team. Like legitimately, some of the other things that I was thinking about was. When do you really think that a top 5 need is a backup quarterback? Because like for the Colts,
I didn't put quarterback on there because you have Anthony Richardson, but
I was thinking about
they need to re-sign Joe Flacco.
They need to re-sign Joe Flacco or get like a quality
Jameis
backup.
Winston.
That is who I put down there was Jameis Winston, mainly because like I was like I want to believe that Anthony Richardson can be good, but he's been so injured the first 2 years. That he hasn't even had the development that he desperately needs. So that's kind of put him in the in a situation where he's going into his 3rd year and he's shown flashes, but like he hasn't really shown the ability to be like the franchise quarterback because the fact of like I said with the injuries and with the absolutely abysmal completion rate. I still understand how you get to like 49%. Anyways, I said Jameis Winston for backup quarterback. I said that they could potentially try to fix their offensive line and totally like go for like a James Daniels, and then I think there are some centers you can get in the 3rd round that you put him.
The center's not very good in the draft this year, but there's some okay guys who could become quality starters,
especially with Quentin Nelson and James Daniels right him. So that's the reason why I was like, I can think they can make that work. And then one that I keep on seeing is a lot of people are saying the Colts would take Tyler Warren, which I don't think is like a bad thing in the draft, but you could potentially take a tight end.
They don't need more weapons because he can't get them the ball anyway.
Exactly. So like that's the reason why I was like instead of going through the draft for tight end, you could go in free agency for tight end.
I get the appeal because man, that would be a sick red zone offense.
It would, but like they have way more of the needs. That's the reason why like I was thinking of like you could sign since you have
left
money.
Tackle kind of has been a revolving door for them.
Yeah.
To where they're picking what 14th overall.
Yes.
So like you'll probably still have offensive tackle 2 or 3 available.
It depends on how they feel about Ryman.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm saying. Like that's the reason why I was like, if you can solidify that guard spot, you're gonna lose Kelly, but you put a center in there. Hopefully he develops with Anthony Richardson, but you already have a lot of talent at wide receiver. You got Pittman, you got Downs, you got Pierce, you got Mitchell, you got all that. You don't really need to draft a guy like Tyler Warren. You could get a tight end. I said Mike Gesicki, but you could probably go lower than that. And then just focus your draft on defense because I think it was also more of a scheme than it was a. I think there's some problems with the personnel, especially on defense, but I think it also did not help that Gus Bradley just has not been. No. So hopefully they do better this year. But I agree with kind of like your assessment with the Colts because they're in a situation where I don't know how much longer Ballard has of a leash.
Yeah.
Because they haven't won their division since he's been there. And you have to have like what?
They're 60, 68 and 1 since he's been there.
Yep, they might have like what, one playoff win?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
against the Texans.
Exactly. I think that there is a chance that Ballard might get fired if things continue to go on the downward trend. And so you might get a little more desperate.
All right. Now you're up with the Saints?
No. Panthers finished before the Saints. But
they did. You're right.
Yeah, but technically we're ahead of them in the draft because of strength schedule.
Right.
I know it's just weird. But the Panthers are the only team in the NFC South that have actually some money right now. Right now we have 24.8 million, and like I said, with the cap it'll shift. But we have some ways we can get more money. We have very, very flexible. We can extend Taylor Moton, who's been a really, really solid right tackle, been definitely top 10 right tackle, but extend him, push back that money. Of course, we're going to extend J.C. Horn, push out some of that money. That'll get us closer to like that 33 mil range. Restructure Robert Hunt and Derek Brown. That saves us close to 20 million. And then we're going to cut Miles Sanders and Shot Tuttle. Miles Sanders has not been worth the money that Fitterer signed him for. Neither has Shot Tuttle. So you get both those out. You get both those out of here. Save a lot of money. Cap is now to like 61 million. That's not even considering what it could potentially be. I think we could go on a little bit of a spending spree. We've already done some of the stuff that I thought we were going to do beforehand. We signed Matthew Wright. I'm very happy about that because our kicking situation is kind of bad. So you get us some competition with Eddie Pinheiro, who's probably going to be out of here. And Matthew Wright had a good season last year. Yeah, he played for 3 different teams, but he still was good for all 3 teams he played for. We can re-sign some of our key free agents that are leaving. That is Mike Jackson, who is our cornerback. He was a really solid corner. Besides J.C. Horn, he's like 28, but you can sign him to like a 2-year deal. You want to keep Shaq Lawson. He's not Shaq Thompson because of the fact that he's just like a veteran presence in our.
And also, you can't really afford to lose people in the front 7.
Exactly. So, like, you still have him and Joseph Jewell, and you also have Trevor Wallace, who came in the rookie year, trial by fire, and had some good moments, had some bad moments. And then also, I want us to re-sign Cade Mays because Cade Mays actually had a really good rapport with Bryce Young. You can get it for cheap compared to you can get him for cheap compared to Brady Christensen and also Austin Corbett. But signing wise, the big free agent, the 3 big free agents that I want to get, Jaron Reed from the Saints, Jaron Reed from the Seahawks because like he's familiar with the scheme. DJ Jones, who's familiar with the scheme, and then I want Justin Reed because not only did we sign his brother when the whole league blackballed him, but so I think that gives us some good faith. But Justin Reed is the kind of safety that we desperately need to fit into Evero's system, who relies heavily on good safety play. So we can go a little bit of spinning spree, but those are the people.
I think for y'all, if you get up to that whatever money, because restructures can happen, but also takes 2 people to restructure.
Sure.
Most of that money needs to go towards the defense side of the ball. I mean, J.C. Horn made the Pro Bowl last year, but he has also dealt with injuries, so getting some assistance there in the secondary would be really useful. Getting a number 2 corner, guys that can like replace J.C. Horn if he misses any time. Obviously, like you said, Justin Reed would be great. Definitely need edge help. I mean, y'all are definitely your first round pick is more than likely going to be front 7, probably front 4. But you missed Derek Brown all last year, and that showed. But he's kind of the only guy that you feel confident in being a long-term starter for in the future. Yeah. So definitely addressing. You're not going to find like top end starters normally, especially in the defensive line. Like those guys don't normally hit free agency. But I think you guys can definitely get some really solid depth and rotational pieces in the front 7, and you need to focus on that. And like maybe get another linebacker. Even if you re-sign Shaq Thompson, you could get maybe you could get a Zach Bond or
because we already have Joseph Jewell. I would think so.
Yeah, but and then wide receiver. I mean, I wouldn't think y'all are going to go. You're not going to sign like a Chris Godwin or something like that. But I mean, you could because he has the connection with Canales. But I don't know if that's where Chris Godwin would go, to be totally honest with you.
Especially like in the division.
Yeah, in division, it's a little kind of frowned upon, but because it's not like he's going to be having a bad relationship with the Bucs, I would think. I mean, maybe he does because of how kind of his thing was handled with like all that stuff, but y'all definitely have a good chance to be good next year. Yeah. So
you'll make the right moves.
Then I've got the Jags. Their key free agents really, I put Brendan Scherf and Andre Cisco. That's kind of it. They have $38 million in cap space. They can probably maneuver and get a little bit more. Their main needs I put were defensive back, offensive line, just all over the offensive line, not just interior, all over the offensive line, and interior defensive line. Their edges are sick. Their edges are amazing. But I know they signed what's his face from San Francisco last year.
Eric Armstead.
Armstead, he was last year. But they really need some like good run stoppers there in the interior. Like Mason Graham's kind of been linked to them a little bit, but they could also really. I didn't put wide receiver on there because Christian Kirk hasn't been cut yet. But Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram could get cut, and then you're also needing a lot of weapons. This is a team that has a lot of potential, but definitely has a lot of holes to fill going into free agency and the draft. Luckily for them, Florida no state income tax. That's kind of a help of a draw. New head coach, maybe teams like that. But the guys I put for them, because they really, really desperately need a secondary corner. I put Charvarius Ward and DJ Reed. And get one of those guys because Charvarius Ward is going to leave San Francisco, not because he has a bad relationship with San Francisco, just because of all the stuff that kind of went down with him last year. Yes. And what would be better than just moving across the country to just a new team, new situation, kind of reset a little bit, get paid a good amount of money because he is a good cornerback. And to be honest, no one's going to play good going through what he went through last year. So, like, I know he had a really bad year. I don't blame him. He's a very good player, very good quarterback. He's been very good for a while. DJ Reed has been a good number 2 corner in New York. I think he's going to leave. Now, he could end up going to San Francisco following his former head coach. But if you throw money at him to be that number 2 corner to Tyson Campbell, I wouldn't be mad at it. I put for interior defensive line, like Derek Nottie and BJ Hill to be kind of that defensive tackle, be that like 4th guy on the defensive line. Derek Nottie's been a pretty solid rotational guy there in in Kansas City for a minute. BJ Hill's a free agent on the Bengals, and they can't re-sign him. They don't have the money. And then for offensive line, I went interior for the free agent guys mainly because they still have who's the tackle they drafted?
And they
Anton Harrison
and
Anton Harrison. So like, I don't think they're going to address offensive tackle in free agency just because like those guys aren't amazing. Walker Little was okay; he just got re-signed. Anton Harrison, you guys still believe in because you drafted him 2 years ago. I put Austin Corbett or Mekhi Becton.
Okay.
You love Austin Corbett. You tell me how good he is.
I also said I said Brady Christensen for them.
Yeah.
So but yeah.
No, I mean Brady Christensen. I put Austin Corbett. I was thinking of Brady Christensen.
Okay, yeah, because he is also able to. I mean, so is Austin
Brady Christensen's the one I meant to put down, or Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was great last year as a guard, so that's probably where he's going to play for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
And maybe a team like Jacksonville's like, okay, well, let's put him there. We're going to probably lose Brandon Scherf or not bring back Brandon Scherf. Let's just kind of reset the guards here. You could get a Brady Christensen or an Austin Corbett, play that center. You could also sign an Austin Corbett to be that centerpiece and sign with the other guys. But they'll definitely address offensive line, interior offensive line in free agency. I did put offensive line as a whole, mainly because I still don't feel super confident about their tackles. Outside, like Walker Little's okay, but I don't know. So that's what I put for the Jags.
I agree. Like I said, I like the Brady Christensen. I also technically said Carlton Davis having another big corner with him and Tyson Campbell. That would be an amazing duo. Him returning to Florida when he was at Tampa. Yeah. But I agree. I think the Jags are in a situation where they could potentially be a fringe playoff team this year, but it's more so getting good impact players. Like if you got a Mason Graham with like a Brady Christensen and Carlton Davis as your two big free agents, I think that's an amazing offseason for you. So
you get the Saints.
And I got the Saints. Saints are in actually one of the worst situations that I've ever seen. Mainly because like they need to do what the Rams did after their Super Bowl run, where they just ate the cap, did what they had to do to get below it, and then just ran with it. Like you can't sign anybody. You have to. You're at negative 47 million right now. So hopefully that changes because of the cap. But you got to restructure Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, Carl Granderson, and Demario Davis just to get it to negative 23 million. You can.
Demario Davis might retire.
He might retire, but like who knows? And then like Derek Carr is an albatross of a contract, so you can't cut him because of the whole stuff you've done. He's not going to take a pit. He's not going to take a pay cut. He's already said that. So
he can get cut next year.
Yeah, so he can get cut next year. So like, unless you can trade him to somebody, that's not going to happen. You can restructure Nathan Shepard. That helps. That like knocks it down by $3 million. You can cut JT Gray, Kalen Sanders, Jamal Williams, and Cedric Wilson to basically clear up close to about like $8.5 million. You can restructure Alvin Kamara. That's like, about another, that's about like a million and about $1.3 million. You can restructure Taysom Hill. That's like close to $6 million, but you're making so many moves to try to get to where you can actually sign like all the moves that I mentioned. If you're able to trade Derek Carr, that only gets you to $6.999 million. Like all of those moves, and then you're not going to be able to do all of them.
No,
it gets you to $6.99 million. Like I'm just like, hoping and praying for you that it can get better. But
the good thing I will say for the Saints is almost all of their really good players that they're paying are pretty old.
Yes.
So like Cam Jordan's 36, he's got like a year or two left. Taysom Hill's 35, he's going to retire soon. Demario Davis is going to retire. Ryan Ramczyk, I think he did just medically retire,
or he was in contract.
Tyrann Mathieu, 33, he's going to retire soon. Yeah. Alvin Kamara doesn't have much left at age 30. Like most of the guys you have on your team that like Eric McCoy's 20, like most of the guys that you're paying big money to are going to be gone in like 1 to 2 years. Like 2027, they've got like $216 million, and that's Derek Carr will be gone.
And even like if they make some of the moves, like especially if they're able to trade Derek Carr, like you can have up to like $124 million just next year in cap.
Yeah.
So like it's really just eat everything right now, deal with it. You're gonna suck. That's fine. Especially if there's
a top pick in a draft, that should be a lot better.
Like you have so much work to do, so you got to understand it's going to be a long road, and you haven't drafted well in the last couple of years, so you don't have that quality depth. So hoping and praying that this draft works out for you, that you're able to get impact players and quality depth. Because outside of that,
there's not really a point in us mentioning free agents they can sign
because they can't
sign anybody.
No.
So like they're gonna lose. I mean, I'll just go and mention real fast just the guys that are probably going to be off the team. Paulson Adebo, good quarterback. Marcus Valdes-Scantling was a touchdown machine for a minute there. Lucas Patrick is kind of old. Willie Gay's a solid linebacker. I mean, no one else really. Not that
Peyton Turner was another failed.
But like, I mean, so you're not like it's not an insane amount of losing guys. But like I said, or like you said, they should just take the next year, like a year or so, and just eat dead money, eat cap, like, and just get an absorbent amount of cap space in like a year or two and pile on some draft picks because like I like their offensive line drafting that they've done the last like year or so that they've like invested really heavy in that. And maybe that pays off and they end up having some pretty solid offensive line pieces.
Maybe Trevor Penning finally does.
Maybe Penning pays off, but they drafted what's his Oregon State? Fuanga, who I really liked as a prospect. Cesar Ruiz is solid. I mean, also Eric McCoy is solid. Like they had a lot of injuries last year, but like they could have the basis of a good offensive line that still like is not very old and have a crap ton of cap space. And like it's just you got to eat it, and they just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and it's not doing any. Like they're not bad, but then they're also just not even close to good.
No,
they just need to take the and I know Saints fans know that. It's just their front office doesn't. Like they're saying their fans would be fine with you just like if you just did a bunch of stuff that like signaled a rebuild, the Saints fans wouldn't be mad at it because they've been calling for it for like 2 to 3 years.
Especially after Drew Brees retired.
Yeah, after Drew Brees, like you tried to fix it with the Derek Carr stuff, that didn't work.
Well, first they were like, oh no, it's James Winston team, he can make it work.
But it's just like all of the good players from your old regime are kind of on the way out. And that should just signal you, okay, let's just like all the players from that historic 2017 or whatever 2016 draft, they're all gone pretty much. Outside of like Alvin Kamara. Like they're pretty much all gone. Like you traded Marshawn Lattimore.
Ryan Ramchek's on the way.
Ryan Ramchek's going to be gone. Alvin Kamara's gone. You lost what's
Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, you lost Trey Hendrickson, but you also lost
Muhammad,
the safety to Baltimore.
Not Marcus May. Marcus
Williams, like all those like historic draft you had where you hit on like all of your first 6 or 7 picks.
Yes.
They're pretty much all gone or on the way out. So like that should just signal you, let's just reset. But that's what we have. That's our little Saints rant that we love to go on whenever time we have the Saints. Now I have the Titans here, the final team, the team that has the number 1 pick in the draft. They have $51 million in cap space. But they have some solid free agents. Like it's not a lot. Really only one guy that I'm like desperate to bring back if I'm them. You've got Jerome Baker, who is starting linebacker for them. Sebastian Joseph Day. He was kind of a depth defensive tackle. You're not going to bring him back because you have Jeffrey Simmons and you have T'Vondre Sweat. Nick Folk, their kicker. You've got Nick Westbrook-Akine. He's the one you want to bring back. He was really good down the stretch, and you already aren't great at wide receiver. You kind of want to bring back Nick Westbrook-Akine. You got Ryan Stonehouse, their punter, and Dylan Radins, who was not good for them last year.
No.
But you're going to lose that right tackle, and they're losing their right guard too. I didn't put him down, but that whole right side. So, but for their needs, I put offensive line, particularly the right side of the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because you've already invested in that left side and you're not doing anything for it. And you got J.C. Latham, you have Peter Skoronski. And then I put wide receiver and I put quarterback. I could have put like some other defensive stuff, but quarterback is just like, I know they have the first pick, so they can address it if they want to, but I got to put it there until they address it.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback.
And they probably should.
Like, yeah.
Based on what they said, there's no generational talent at quarterback. So.
Like, I would, to be honest, if I didn't put quarterback, I'd put edge rusher for them. But also, it's the same thing. Like, well, they could just take edge rusher in the first overall pick. Like, I whatever well, that third need I put, whether it was quarterback or edge rusher, that could just get addressed with their first overall pick, and that's probably what they're going to do. Like, if they don't go out and they don't sign a like Sam Darnold, or I put Justin Fields there too, if they that'd be stupid. But if they don't sign one of those guys, you gotta draft Cam Ward. You gotta have to. Like, you cannot run back Will Levis. You can't.
After everything that happened.
You can't, like, in signing a Jameis Winston, while it's fun, it's kind of like Will Levis, but like plus 10%.
Your whole entire fan base is gonna be, we gave up Mike Vrabel for this.
Yeah.
Like a lot of fan bases.
And they had a pretty solid draft last year.
Yeah.
Like, I like JC Latham. I think it's Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan is one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL.
That's the reason why I had Mekhi Becton as some of the.
Well, I was going to get to there.
Yeah.
But for their needs, I put T. Higgins. Even though I know he just got tagged, he's getting tagged to trade. I think more than likely, probably going to be like a third-round pick, like an early third-round pick.
Because you still have to pay him.
Yeah, because you still like. But T. Higgins has the obviously connection with Callahan because he was this former offensive coordinator. So there's like a lot of my free agents here that you'll see have connections. And then I put Chris Godwin too, mainly because you can just throw a bag at him and say, hey, you'll be the number one wide receiver on this team. And maybe like just getting targets is fun to him. I mean, it's fun to almost wide receivers, but I know Chris Godwin's never kind of been like a diva like that.
No.
But T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, I think you got to address wide receiver in some way before you get to the draft, because I still think you have other needs than drafting wide receiver there on day 2. And then for offensive line, I put Jedrick Wills.
Okay.
Because I don't love the right tackle class, and I think he's kind of the best maybe offensive lineman there. And he was, when he had Bill Callahan as his offensive line coach, he was a lot better than he was last year. And if they want to run the ball, I believe, I think having Jedrick Wills and J.C. Latham as kind of your 2 tackles.
Peter Skoronski,
like maybe you're cooking something. And then the other offensive line I put is Trace Smith. I think this is probably his most likely destination.
Going back to Tennessee?
He goes back to Tennessee, but also he has the connection with Brett Veach, who was his assistant general manager there in Kansas City. They just signed him to be their GM in
Mike Borjanski.
Oh, that's their But yeah, Brett Veach was the head, and then Borgonzi was underneath him. So he has the connection with the general manager. They have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And they have no competition to play right guard. They can say, hey, you get to come back to the state where you played college ball. You know the general manager, so you have the connection there. You're going to get paid. And there's not like this huge expectation. Like, it's not this insane media market on you all the time.
If you're putting Sam Darnold in there and you're able to hopefully be able to get a T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Or
you could still make 2 of these moves. You could get T. Higgins and still sign. Like, you could sign Trey Smith and T. Higgins and also get like Jedrick Wills, and all of a sudden your offensive line kind of looks pretty solid. If you want to be a run-first offensive line or run-first offense, and you draft Cam Ward to kind of be the distributor, I wouldn't hate that. That's kind of the route. That's kind of the route I would take.
You would keep him upright, and like
you'd be like, okay, maybe our wide receiver core, it's Calvin Ridley, Nick Westbrook-Kine, and T. Higgins. With that offensive line and Cam Ward sitting back there, I'm intrigued.
If Spears takes the next step, and you got Pollard as well,
who had a good year.
Like I said, I think it's more so.
It's a great running back class where you could get a third power back.
Yes, and if you can get like in the draft, there's a lot of good edge rushers.
Yes,
I think the Titans.
I would be very intrigued if that's the route they go. I know we'll mention Trey Smith a whole lot in upcoming videos because he's the top offensive lineman available in free agency. And also, it's not a great guard draft. Like, it's a good draft for tackles to guards, but not a great pure guards draft. And also, there is a lot of teams that need interior offensive line. Like, interior offensive line has not apparently not been very good the last couple of years coming out of the draft, because I know there have been some like good players, but apparently the back end of it has not been good, because there are just about every team I can list needs interior offensive line. And also, y'all don't. Y'all
yeah, we invested
y'all invested in that. But like, I mean, there is going to be so many teams that need interior offensive line. I mean, all the ones I listed today for the, I mean, Texans obviously do. Jaguars obviously do. Titans. And Titans obviously do. Colts also could need it. Mm-hmm. I mean, for you, I mean, you've got the Bucks. We listed guard. Yeah. We listed the not Falcons. I mean, your division's kind of actually solid. Yeah. And I mean, the Saints could, but they don't have the cap space to do anything. But it's like we're going to list offensive line a lot. Offensive line is one of the most important parts of football, and it's kind of been a weak point for a lot of different teams. And I think also part of it is that defensive linemen are getting better in the NFL, and like there's been a really good infusion of defensive tackles lately in the NFL, where they're kind of exposing some of these guards a little bit. And so like you go, okay, well, we've gotten all these really good defensive tackles, but we're not getting all these really good guards.
We need to invest. Let's remember we invested in Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. And the reason why we are not going to be able to afford Brady Christensen and Austin Corbett, they're going to get paid.
Yeah. But we're going to mention all that to say we're going to mention Trey Smith a lot.
Yes.
But I know this was a little bit of a longer episode. We enjoy kind of these free agency. We'll hit you next week with, I don't know what we'll do yet. We'll figure that out. We'll text that out. But it'll be another NFC, AFC division thing, and we'll do that up until free agency actually starts in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So we should hit it right on the nail, and then we can kind of discuss free agency, do some mock drafts, and all that. But thank y'all for watching this episode, and see you on the next one.